Hello and welcome to this ASANA Best Practices tutorial by Simple Business Solutions. At this point, you should know the basics of navigating ASANA. You should know how to get to your My Tasks list, your inbox list. You should know how to navigate projects on the side. And if you're an organization, you'll have teams on the side as well. You should know about subtasks, descriptions, leaving comments, adding followers, and things like that. This is just going to cover the best way to go about using the tool so that you can increase your communication. You can be more clear with your team, and you can be more efficient so that there's not questions about, hey, you're working on XYZ project, or hey, what's the update with this? Everybody will always be informed at all times, and if you want to be informed about something, that'll be one of the tips that we cover. So let's get started. The very first tip to make sure that communication happens and that nothing gets dropped is to assign every task to somebody. So whether that's a subtask inside of a parent task like this one here, or whether that's a parent task in and of itself like this one here, we want to make sure that it's assigned. If you've seen the Getting Things Done video, you know that what that does is that sends them a notification in the inbox. They automatically become a follower, whoever you've assigned it to, and it shows up under their My Tasks. So you can see I have a whole bunch of new tasks here because I've recently assigned myself these things. As a result, now I have to triage those tasks and prioritize them. So I get my hands on every single piece of work that needs to happen by assigning every task to somebody. So that's tip number one. The second thing is you want to run this Getting Things Done process daily, and specifically what you want to make sure of is that you are following any tasks that you want updates on. This is very similar to the Getting Things Done process, but a little bit outside of it, because if you're not following a task, you get no updates in your inbox. If you are following a task, you do get updates. Conversely, if you don't want to be following a task, remove yourself as a follower. This is probably the most common question that I get. People are saying, oh, I'm getting updates to all these irrelevant things. Well, that's because you're following things that you don't want to be following. So remove yourself as a follower. Like I've just removed myself as a follower, which means that I'm not going to get any notifications in my inbox. And if you want to follow the task, just click Follow Task right there, and you'll see that your face pops up. Then this text changes to following, and you'll get notifications in the inbox. So that brings us to tip number 3. Often people get email notifications and they get too many. For some reason, ASANA turns on all the email notifications regarding particular projects and updates to those projects and everything else. So the whole point of being efficient and using scalable systems is to not have excess or erroneous or irrelevant communication. ASANA does a great job of providing you with updates in your inbox, and if you're checking in with your inbox every day, as you should be with the Getting Things Done process, you'll see all those updates. There's no reason to get them in email. Now, it might be cool to get a summary of emails. So I'm going to show you how to change those settings. So what you have to do is click your name or your face up top and click My Profile Settings. Then you're going to go to Email, and this is all of the organizations that I'm a member of. So I can get task reminders, I can get all activity, or a weekly dashboard. So for most of the organizations, I want to uncheck task reminders, and I want to uncheck all activity, and I want to check weekly dashboard. So weekly dashboard is checked. All activity and task reminders are unchecked for every single organization that you're a part of. That eliminates every single task that gets added from going to your inbox in your email. It also eliminates all the reminders about tasks going to the inbox in the email, and it just streamlines things. So doing that, now I no longer receive those updates. And if you haven't changed these yet, be sure to do this. Pause this video, go do it now. It will make your life a lot easier. And this brings us to tip number 4, getting things done and doing it right. So in ASANA, we have a pretty well-defined process. We have an awesome tool that allows us to track everything that needs to happen. And with this video, you're learning the best practices to make it happen. But if you don't use getting things done, you absolutely won't be effective. You're going to get overwhelmed with tasks. You're not going to know what's priority, and things are just going to get confusing. And the key part of this is knowing where you have notifications, things in your inbox or new tasks, and where you don't. So I can click my organizations on the right, and I can see a yellow dot. Now I've gone through and done my process already for all these organizations, but I can see an orange dot or yellow dot, depending on your screen, next to each organization. That tells me that there's something in the inbox to check. And because you're doing your getting things done process every day, you're going to check your inbox. So make getting things done a habit, remove those notifications so that you don't feel like ASANA is a burden, and continue to be effective. Tip number 5 is, in the interest of maintaining clear communication, only put comments relevant to a given task in the comments of that task. So what does that mean? This comes with a whole lot of implications. It means if you're going to send a comment or a question about something that's not related here, so let's say that you wanted an update on your billing, you wouldn't say in this task for Teach People ASANA, let's say you're me, you wouldn't say, hey, I need to talk to you about billing. The reason for that is a couple things. Well, we have a team here at Simple Business Solutions, and that team has access to only certain pieces of information depending on their role. If you're putting irrelevant comments in tasks that don't correlate with what they're about, then the team can see those comments and they're confused. The other reason is that you're not going to be able to track down the relevant pieces of information. The whole point of ASANA and these tasks are to give context to absolutely every piece of content that's here and to create actionable steps in a way that gives people everything that they need to get started. So look for the task that you want to comment on first. You may use the search feature up top in advanced search, which is another tutorial that we can make. That'll allow you to create reports. You can do searches for things like, when the due date was, is this task complete? And you have a whole bunch of other fields that you can search by. This may be a matter of creating a new task, which we'll go over when we do your initial onboarding. But most of the time, it'll just be a matter of going to the last task in the inbox and pressing enter, and then assigning it to your project lead. In most cases, that'll be Chris Fern. If it's not, you'll know. Assign it to your project lead. They'll delegate it from there. If you don't know if there's a task made, ask. You have access to ASANA, and you have access to Slack. Slack is the team communication tool. So if there's nowhere that you see a task that's relevant, and you don't want to create one because you think maybe there's been a conversation about one or something like that, ask your project lead. They'll find the task for you, they'll create it for you, and then in that space is where you would communicate about that task. If you have comments that aren't related to a task and aren't related to an action, but are just a general question like, how do I access the back end of my member dashboard? Ask not in ASANA, but in Slack. ASANA should only be for actionable things. So that's tip number 4. Only put relevant information where it goes. Don't interject or interrelate pieces of information because it will confuse the team, it'll confuse you, and it'll make that information harder to track down later. It could be up to double the amount of time it would take to just execute on that information because now you have 20 pieces of information for a certain task in 15 different places. So only relevant information in those given tasks. You can think of it like this too. Every task should be responsible or accountable. It should be one place for one thing. And in the software world, we call that the single responsibility principle. So you're not going to make a task to teach people ASANA and collect a password and log into GoDaddy. You're going to break each piece up into one thing, one responsibility, one action. That gives the context that you need to be able to then search and update those tasks. All right, so that's it. Those are your 5 tips for more efficiency, for more effectiveness, and for better productivity in ASANA. If you haven't seen the other 2 training videos on the basics or getting things done, definitely check those out. Getting things done is going to be the how. It's going to be the definitive guide to how you go about this stuff, and it will, coupled with this tutorial, make you an ASANA Pro. So that's it. Until next time, take it easy.